I'm the wine director for a group of restaurants based here in Chicago called Hog Salt. And yeah, we're gonna just walk through a few different wines here that are from the Sommeliers Choice Awards. So if you're not familiar with Sommeliers Choice Awards, it's a very cool event that I've participated as a judge in for many, many years, courtesy of this handsome gentleman right here, Sid Patel, is host proprietor of the Sommeliers Choice Awards, and it's a very cool awards system, right? You know, I grew up in a wine climate market where wine spectator, wine advocate were really a big deal, but a lot of my mentors in the business really look towards you know, like the San Francisco Chronicle, for example, as a quality bellwether, and it was a group of industry professionals that would get together and blind taste wine together. And it would be, you know, really hardened, salty old buyers like myself arguing over which one's good and which one's great and which one maybe doesn't add up. And that whole format of a wine assessment was kind of, I don't know, not really shouted from the rooftops in a way that it really should have been for many, many years. And Sid's kind of bringing that back, and I think that's really, really cool. So Sommelier Choice Awards here we're going to taste 5 of the most highly awarded within their category wines that were blind tasted by masters of wine, masters sommeliers, buyers that have been around for a very, very long time. Yeah, keep an eye out if you see Sommelier Choice Awards on some marketing material. That's kind of what goes behind it. Really, really serious judges. And yeah, without further ado, let's have some bubbles, because so, starting here with Iris Vineyards out of Willamette Valley. So Willamette Valley, unsurprising to many of us here, very cool climate, right? This is what we love about the Pinot Noirs from this region. Really great place for sparkling wine. I spent my COVID hiatus marooned in the Willamette Valley making sparkling wine with a different brand. So I always gravitate towards these. These are, for me, some of the best values in the sparkling wine category. Champagne, even at the more humble end, is extraordinarily expensive nowadays, and the wines from Willamette are just getting better and better every year, so long as it doesn't catch fire. Looking at you, 2020 vintage, no fun. So this is a very large property, kind of around Eugene. Family owned and operated, 800 plus acres of the estate, but only around, I believe, 40 of them are planted to vineyards. Almost all of it is Douglas fir trees. So very big into sustainability. And although the estate itself is very large, the production is quite small. This is a new one for me, but I really think this is a particularly elegant and beautiful package. And let's take another look at the wine here. I see why that's popular. So, obviously with Willamette, we're straddling the climate of our cooler French regions in Champagne with all of that bright, chalky, linear, acid-driven styles that we all know and love from Champagne, and the kind of rounder, creamier, more full throttle American, kind of Californian style that we have in places like Anderson Valley, for example, Carneros, some big sparkling wine producers out there. This to me lands kind of right in the middle of those two styles. What I also love, I couldn't find a legit tech sheet on this, so I apologize, is there is some of that like malty, kind of walnutty, aged lees characteristic here. So this is more than kind of your cheap and cheerful style of sparkling wine here. So some of those nutty bells and whistles, you know, whispers of the really interesting parts of, I think of producers like Boulanger and Krug, right? The frame of this for me is a little bit more Rubenesque. It's a little rounder than we get in those wines, but a lot of those same flavors. And I don't know about you guys, but I think this wine rips. I don't know what it costs, but I know it doesn't cost as much as Krug. So I was talking with my buddy Eric Siegelbaum, who I didn't know was in town, and man about town, has been in the industry a long time, and he saw the Angels and Cowboys, and he's like, I know that guy. It's a gentleman from Tel Aviv who was a lawyer by trade and made some lawyer money and moved out to California and built a brand called Cannonball Cabernet. Anybody here heard of Cannonball Cabernet? When I got in the business, that stuff was everywhere. It might still be. Became a very big brand. He was like, hey, there's no really good Cabernet at $20. And he built this and sold the stuff all over the place. So since moved on to a bunch of other projects, and Angels and Cowboys is one of them. So going from kind of a slightly cooler Willamette Valley sparkler into California. Let's give it a spin. Yum, yum. So, little details on this. This is mostly Pinot Noir, if memory serves, and about 12 months on the lees. So, not a particularly long secondary fermentation for this, which is pretty common for Brut Rosé. A lot of producers really like to kind of accent that purity of the Pinot Noir fruit with just kind of like a little bit of that whisper of lees, and allowing that kind of primary Pinot Noir fruit to sort of maintain its fingerprint in the wine. And I think that was kind of the intention here. To me, there's a lot of finesse here and really well judged dosage here as well. This is definitely on the fruity side of sparkling wine, right? I think most of us in the trade prefer really, really kind of lean, super racy styles, and this has a little bit of plumpness to it. This is the style of wine that I always look for our restaurant group, because I think it's really easy and delicious on its own, and you don't need a nerdy sommelier type of pointy-headed experience to really enjoy this. What do you guys think? Into it? Who here likes sparkling wine 1 better? Who here likes sparkling wine 2 better? Everybody? Can you guys hear me in the back? Opinions are welcome. But different strokes, different folks, and I think, obviously thinking about, all of those red fruit flavors that we get with the skin contact of Pinot come through here, juxtaposed to the more, peachy, hairy, green apple flavors that we get in the Iris, but both super tasty. Who is in the mood for Burgundy? I am. I always am. So what else is new? I was really excited to see this. This is kind of an old friend here. Bouchard MS. There's a few Bouchards. The Bouchards, there's a bunch of these names in Burgundy. It's like Smith or, very, very common family names. Moret. How many Morets have you seen from Burgundy? Whole lot. There are 2 large negociants in Burgundy, Bouchard MS and Bouchard Père et Fils. Clear as mud, right? I would mix these up all the time. 2 different properties, but this is Bouchard MS. This is owned by a gentleman named Jean-Charles Boisset. The Boisset family owns this. Represent. And wines are really, really pretty and really represent a tremendous value in a category and in a region nowadays that has become very, very expensive. So we're here in Fisson from the Lieu de la Mazière. And for me, this is quintessential everything I like about Burgundy. For those of you who listen to my friend Christian speak about his favorite wines under $30 at our little talk earlier. Fisson is kind of one of those less heralded, less famous areas, right? It's not your Gevrey-Chambertin, your Chambolle-Musigny. It's a little bit more of a kind of a humble terroir, and these were the wines that I really grew up drinking and enjoying, because when I was new to the industry, I didn't have hundreds of dollars to spend on great Burgundy, so I was drinking Fisson, Morange, Santenay, Sauvigny-le-Bon, these things, and these kind of cooler, less well-exposed sites have this really pristine transparency that oftentimes in a warming climate nowadays can sometimes get lost in the really warm vintages. We just bought a wine from a really famous producer who made a Grand Cru that was over 16% alcohol in 2020. Whoops! Whoopsies! It's probably still really good, but the terroir expression is going to be a whole lot different, right? So let's taste this guy. That's what I'm into. Ultra pure, really kind of satiny, right? It's a very, very kind of lacy, sensual experience here. I really love these kind of lower tannin Pinot Noirs. There's enough grip there to kind of give it backbone, but it is just so damn seductive. And I can totally see why, especially in a tasting scenario, when you're tasting things blind, this is going to stick out, right? Again, I don't know what this wine costs. It's probably in the vicinity of $40, $50. I'm going to have some more. That is so damn good. So 2020, warmer vintage for sure, but no lack of polish or purity or clarity in this wine. Yummy in my tummy. Okay. Let's do some Shiraz. Shiraz fans in the house, raise your hand. Anybody? These were personally among my favorite wines when I got in the business, and I don't drink them as often as I used to, but every time I have them, I'm reminded that I should be buying and drinking more of these wines, and this was a great reminder here. This is Zilzi out of Victoria, and Victoria is a very cool part of South Australia here. We're looking at an area that, with this kind of cooler neck of the woods, we get more of those savory aspects of Shiraz. This is not your kind of powerhouse, torrefacted, kind of burny, charry Barossa style. All due respect to that big, delicious idea of Shiraz. This is a little bit more kind of peppery, leans a little bit more French for my palate. Let's give it a taste. Super silky as well, right? Texturally, the Australians do such a great job with tannin management. It's kind of like a stereotype of the Australians. They're like these wild technocrats. They make the Germans look like they're artists. They're so exacting in their winemaking. And this to me, just ultra pure, super silky, really, really well made, and kind of a lighter idea of Shiraz, right? This is kind of, softer, very drinkable. Yeah, so Victoria definitely more known for the fortified styles. And if you guys haven't had any of those Australian stickies, they're some of my very, very favorite wines in the world, and they sell for a song. They're so good. Roquefort and Rutherglen Muscat is a party. Do yourself a favor. Let's have some port. I had the good fortune to go visit these folks this year, and it was really cool. Not a property that I knew a ton about, but very, very historic here. This is Sandeman White Port. Has anybody here never had white port before? Few? Awesome. Unsurprising. There's not a lot of this stuff made. I was frantically trying to Google the number, but I was doing other things, so I didn't get there. But it is under 10%, I'm certain, of the production of Portugal. And they're really trying to plant more and more of these grapes because it's becoming more and more popular. So a host of obscure native varieties here. It is made in a similar style to port, except without that maceration on the skins. Average age here is about 7 years. So the color here will tell you that this is not fresh wine. And being this kind of reserve style, obviously there's a little bit of oxygen involved here. When you go to Porto to visit, and you really should because it's an amazing place to visit, the aperitivo, which this is sort of named after, is white port and tonic. So this is one of my favorite summertime drinks. Get yourself a $20 bottle of white port. Again, I'm not sure what this costs. This is a reserve tier, so it might be a few dollars more. And some really great tonic, ice, and a little swath of orange lemon in there, and it is so tasty. I feel like we talked a lot about lower alcohol, lower impact cocktails today, and this is very much one of those type of cocktails, right? If you don't want 2 ounces of 50% alcohol gin, a little white port in there, about 20%, really tasty. Let's taste it. What's not to love, right? It's like nougat, all these kind of nutty cashew, caramel, brown sugar. I'm into that. Fans here? Those of you tasting it for the first time, you like it? It's good, right? Yeah, this is a really kind of cool, kind of underrepresented category. Candidly, guilty. We don't carry any white port in our restaurant group, but we probably should. And again, I think this is, if you're running a Mediterranean concept, a really good kind of quick two-touch cocktail idea, and also, definitely going to be a margin maker, right? If we're selling port instead of gin, you're probably going to sell twice as many. The question was, where do you put this wine if it's in a cocktail, but also on your list? I would put this probably in the dessert wine category, but I might put it on the Wines by the Glass list as well. So we make bamboo cocktails in our restaurant group with some sherry. And just because we have open sherry, we put that on our Wine by the Glass list. And quick rant, if you are serving dry sherry in your restaurant, please don't put it on the dessert wine list. Big miss. Because I love drinking sherry. I might drink a half bottle of sherry as my aperitivo, but if I get to the dessert menu and I see you have, XYZ manzanilla on there, I'm like, oh man, I don't want manzanilla right now, but I would have had that earlier. So that's my little hobby horse whenever I see that on a dessert menu, and I'm sure it will show up on one of our dessert menus at some point because it's hard to keep track of all these things. But dry wines for me from sherry, put them on your Wines by the Glass list. I will drink them.